It being 6:30, I will open the Plympton Planning Board meeting. The first matter on the agenda is the continued public hearing for consideration of a site plan approval application for 0 Brook Street Phase 3 Solar. Is there anyone from the applicant who would like to speak?
Yes. Good evening. For the record again, Zachary Parkins, Individuals. Here tonight to hand off hard copies of our response to Mr. Chessia's peer review letter. It includes revised plan set, a corresponding revised storm putter management report.
I'll give that to John.
And a cover letter with a couple attachments.
Okay. Is there anything you want to say about the response?
Yeah, I think my plan tonight was to kind of quickly summarize the response. And kind of just a reminder, we left off here the last time was when John Chessie himself presented his review, we'll call it. So we had received that peer review a couple days before the meeting, and I had communicated at that point that we had no material issues with the peer review itself. We don't really dig in. That became or stood to be true. We broke out John's peer review into approximately 36 items of kind of comments. It feels like a lot at first, but when you kind of break out those items, over 20 of them are kind of engineering clarifications or comments. Stuff like, axial contour limits, the details, the hills. Obviously, it's a tricky site, so some of those things add signature blocks to the plan sheets, et cetera, et cetera. So, as you can see in our response, we've broken out all of those individual 36 items and formulated as what we would think a good response to each one. If the majority were engineering changes, the second biggest group that created were comments on the stormwater. There were 8 comments on stormwater, perhaps a couple more. But the reason there were so many is there are 10 stormwater standards. And so John commented on each of the standards. Some of them required some modification, others not so much. But the biggest changes from an engineering standpoint is we sent out a soils crew to dig 3 test pits, one at each one of the proposed stormwater basins, to ascertain groundwater levels and also to confirm our assumptions on soil. So with that information, I provided that memo in the peer review letter. It's a 50-page memo, so I'm going to put it there. But ultimately, we got 3 goals, confirmed 2 things, and identified groundwater levels. So we're able to make some slight modifications to the basins just to make sure we can perform exactly what we found out to do and not what we were assuming. I guess there are no big changes to them. When you look at this plan set, the most recent one dated August 27th, that's been handed to you guys tonight. That was provided to John as well. Visually, the site is going to look and smell and feel the exact same as the first one. Like I said, a lot of movement between the lines, between the contours, between the fence lines to accommodate the vast majority of John's comments. Is that the southern bound of the site? So if this is the entire site here, I'm talking about this southern bound. If I really zoom in, this is the access road. We got to do one step before I move on. So here's the southern third of the site. We've got property line right here, Mayflower Cranberry is over here.
See that okay, Mrs.? Want to make sure you can see. Okay, sure.
Proposed access road, which follows the existing road, you guys probably walk it, your sidewalk. I'm sure you guys curveball at the last minute, but ultimately this is the access road into the site. So you can see by the heavy dash that you zoom in even more, because all the focus was placed on material changes to the design. placed on this access road and the road. Jumping into the zoomed area right here. Again, access road, existing site, the corner of the proposed site is over here. So as you drive up the hill to get into the site, you have grade from about 120 feet up to about 137 and back down into the site. So there's going to be kind of a ramp on the peak of our site. So the first point, now that you guys have been out there, you can feel that this site is quite a bowl. And so based on all of our calculations, our site visits, et cetera, we've confirmed that whatever water is coming across, it's coming from either the phase 1 or phase 2 site. There's some runoff over the road, overflowing this existing basin right here, which is clearly not. Area that was identified very early in the process, actually during our Conservation Commission sidewalk. So we've been waiting for this kind of opportunity to really rev the plans. So what you guys will see is this very small, ineffective basin is capture all the water from the existing sites for the repair that part of this plan.
Does any of your water go to this basin? Oh, so strictly repair and expansion.
This is maybe a little, it's simply a repair and expansion, as this should have been.
Correct, yeah, I get you there, yep.
In addition, along this whole, we're building this swale in here to make sure any runoff that could get over that road, which would be minimum, is going to be captured in this swale instead of running into this basin.
Mhm.
Third, we're really overbuilding this area. It's going to be all reinforced, hard stone, riprap, et cetera, so that we can kind of get ahead of any potential failure issues that might have led to the failure of the existing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm
this
sorry,
is the-
can you just show me again where the swale is? I missed that part.
So the road is right here. There's a swale right here, south of the road that runs into the basin, and there's also armoring on either side of that swale to make sure that there's no erosion that would compromise that performance of that swale. Materially overbuilding this area, and we involve a general repair of the existing basin to make it function like it should.
Are you reconstructing the roadway?
Reconstructing might be a strong term, but we're gonna reinforce it. The existing project access is actually it's just past the basin right now, so so a lot of that road can be built. It's not built to an actual road spec.
Okay.
The existing road coming in where it needs repair later. But ultimately, this is the only thing that's different. This really entire area didn't exist on our first plan. We just showed a road coming in, assuming that the existing stormwater features were working. Because of the first point, that none of our sheet flow, our stormwater was going to make it over this hill and down the road. It wasn't part of our original plan. We didn't really know there was existing problems. So instead of asking the neighbors, asking you guys to chase down this project owner for repairs, I think it just makes more sense just for us to do this while we have vehicles on site. Other than that, like I said, the site looks and feels very, very similar to what we proposed from day one. And the hope is that we can, I guess, write a bit of a run here for whatever happened with the construction. It's probably a maintenance failure, but I can't say for sure. I'm not a civil engineer, but whatever it is, we just want to let you guys know our intentions, obviously, on this area. That was the big thing I wanted to talk through. Other than that,
Question I had, the extent of clearing of native vegetation, you're just around 11% or so, so we talked about making sure it's less than 10, so it's in compliance.
yeah, so we ran those numbers, so we're still kind of at that is a Christmas tree a tree question. But what I think is native clearing is less than, it's about 0.51 acres, so just a little bit more than half an acre. So with a 15-acre project, you're well under the 10% threshold. If you were to include that area to the north, the area to the north was kind of the questionable area. That's an area that, when I look at the satellite images, it's very clear that those were once part of the Christmas trees, but Christmas tree farm, but have been let grow for the longest or been abandoned for the longest. They are significant trees now, 6, 8, sometimes maybe even 10-inch caliber. If we included those, it would still be under the 10%.
Then you need to demonstrate that, because I look at those trees as being native vegetation because they're 10 inches in diameter, right?
Yeah, I think ultimately, it's all, even if you were to include those in the map,
Yeah.
it's still well under.
Yeah, we talked on the site visit of actually taking a Google map photo and delineating on that where these areas are, so we clearly can see what you're calling it out as.
Yeah, so it's the tree clearing plan's been added to the plans that.
Okay.
Included here in photo. Did I take your point about adding a Google Earth in black and white, excuse me, color?
Yep.
Print that to show. All right, so we've got the same sheet. What we show right here is this strip along the very south.
Mm-hmm.
So if you recall, there's kind of a cliff there.
Yep.
With a bunch of trees, roots hanging out. So we're basically, as we perform a return to grade there and smooth out that cliff, we are going to lose a very thin layer of trees,
Mm-hmm.
just on the southernmost bound or limit of work. This encompasses approximately 0.51 acres, so half an acre, a little bit more than half an acre down here. This area up here is the wooded area that's, what you call questionable.
Yeah.
If we'd like to consider it trees, it's about 1.2 acres. So that takes us right around to a little bit under 10%.
Okay.
So we could include it, we could not include it. We did call out these.
Yeah, I'd like you to include it, just as we set precedent.
It's included here, right?
Yep.
So it shows the calculation is under 10%, but,
Okay.
so we're.
Do you want to see the plan up close?
No, I'd rather see the color rendering when it's
Yeah, we
available.
Put together a color rendering for the next slide.
Okay.
Excuse me, the next one
Okay.
here. But that'll
Mhm.
essentially just plot this on top of.
Yeah.
the most
Yep,
recent
and that'll be documented and
Yep.
we'll all be clear.
We feel good about it either way.
What was the amount of the tree removal, the acreage in the northern part? Sorry.
Shift a little bit over one.
1.2?
We'll call it a little bit over one for the minutes today. We'll bring that exact sheet at the next.
Okay. Tom, do you have any more questions?
I do not.
Joanne, do you have any questions? I do not have any questions. Is there anything else you want to present at this point?
No, that's it. Otherwise, other than just to tell you guys, we've provided all the hard copies to Mr. Chessie as well. And as the board approved last week, or last meeting, we're going to continue to work with John and in the hope of coming back to you guys on the 16th
Yeah.
with a response, it's called a second peer review. Hopefully that peer review. My instinct is we may go back and forth on a couple things. So we'll likely have one more revision to the drawing just in case, John says this, we offer that, he says, hey, how about that? We'll do something else. So my hope is that by the 16th, we can come back with a clean peer review letter and a final revised plan set. But, these things take a little bit of time, so it may not be the 16th.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Any questions?
I have a question for you, Zach, and just for the board's knowledge. Zach did share the revised plans with my husband and I, so we had a chance to take a look at them. I guess our main question, Zach, is on the revised stormwater basin. It still looks like if there is overflow, and certainly it is much improved, it's larger, should be able to handle water flow, but the discharge still points at our property, which gravity says we're the low spot, but the outlet there is still pointing right at us. So if that system overflows, we're getting the water.
I would just play a little semantic game and say if the system is not maintained and failed, I mean, it's just going to act just as a larger pool, right? It'll take more time, but eventually it'll overtop. So I think we talked a little bit about at the last meeting about tightening up the requirements for the operation of this new phase to make sure that it's receiving the maintenance that it needs. But yeah, I mean, gravity is what it is. You design a project so that water does not go into the property. The design assumes it functions properly and is maintained properly. And so it's hard to say that when obviously the existing project doesn't seem to be operating or being maintained properly, but hopefully we can add some more teeth with this project. And I guess the good part was this project, this newly proposed expanded basin will capture the water from all three of the projects. So it's kind of one throat to choke if we can make this work. And so I brought up the idea to the board about, there's a decommissioning bond for decommissioning. It's a one-time thing, and we were amenable to called a stormwater bond, to put money up to make sure that in the event that there is a failure and we don't respond or we don't hold up our end of the bargain, that there's money from the planning board that's available should you come in and say, Zach's not responding to my calls, that type of thing. So it's hard to promise, so we're just gonna hope that the planning board kind of forces us to put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah, so then I guess the follow-up question is for the board. You know, if that is put into place, is it enforceable? You know, that it will something.
If it's in the regulations and there's a bond, it is enforceable. The challenge is monitoring it, right? Because they're going to build a solar field and they're going to go away and they're going to come back only when they're called to come back. It's not like it's operating like a facility where you have daily operations. So it's on us in a sense to require the applicant to provide an annual report and require us to manage it and make sure we do that. But we have no staff. So it's great to have these rules and regulations, but enforcement is always a difficult situation when you don't have staff. We have no staff, right? It's just looking at me to remember this. So I look at you in a sense as an abutter to maybe keep us accountable and friendly reminders, and then you can remind us and we can remind them. To be honest with you.
I mean, I'm no engineer, you know, but
Yeah.
it certainly looks like, you know, the concerns being addressed with the expansion of the stormwater basin. Will it function as designed?
So,
That's a question
Yeah.
that I can't answer.
so I will say that our review engineer is a stickler, extremely conservative. So if he says it's going to function, I believe him. It's also sandy gravel out there, so the infiltration rate is pretty good. It must have took a lot for that system to fail. And that's just years of.
That's the issue. There is no, the natural filtration system has been stripped.
Well, you
And so
got a
that's
little,
where
right.
you're getting the hard pack and the sheet erosion.
Mhm,
If the natural
mhm.
filtration
Right.
is there, we're not gonna see, I
Underst-
mean, we can dig, not this year, right, because we're in a drought, you know, I can dig a fence post and maybe get 2 feet and hit water.
Mhm.
Not very far from this project.
Mhm.
Right now, no, you know, things
Right,
are
yeah,
drying.
sure.
But that's the natural filtration has been taken out, you know, and so now we're left with that super, super hard pack. Grass isn't gonna grow there, there's no topsoil, so that's the other, you know, even with the expansion, with a gravel removal permit, there's conditions that come with that. Your slopes, you have to seed, you know, you have to put topsoil back, you have to seed it. Does this project include that topsoil has to be put underneath the panels, that it has to be seeded? Will that help some of the runoff? Now, in a drought, you know, good luck getting
Right.
stuff to grow. But are they gonna hyperseed it and walk away? And then, you know, the plan was to have grass, but it didn't cook.
Yeah.
So those are some of the, and again, they're hypotheticals, you know, that you can't answer, you know, the sand is gone. So again, there's no filtration system there where that water was going to go. It's now just stuck on kind of more hard packed material and it just runs. And so, you know, that bowl that's been created, I guess it's to be determined, you know, how, I don't think there's no outlet towards our reservoir. It's a bowl, you know, but if you did the sidewalk, you can see where the hill was
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what's gone.
Yeah.
So that's okay, you got a bowl created now, so no more water's gonna come off of this phase 3, but until that's not maintained, I guess that's the, you know, and that's not, you know, I perfectly understand, you know, that your perspective, like what your role is here to design it, but you're gonna do your job and you're gonna walk away. You know, same thing with the owner, you know, when it's leased, it's no longer the owner's responsibility, it's the leasing. And what teeth do we have to just make sure that, again, just keep your water on your property, you know, and we
Yep,
would make-
yep.
So what I would say is that's where the idea of the bond is actually more effective than other circumstances, because unlike a business that's operating where the building inspector could conceivably, you know, come and issue an order and lock the door essentially and say people can't go into business because of a violation, which then would be an impetus to get the owner to fix it. You can't really do that, unfortunately, with a solar field because we don't control the transmission of the electricity. You can't flip a switch and say, you can't collect any power from this until you come into compliance.
That's not true.
Our building inspector doesn't think that he
I know
can.
you, the building inspector doesn't, but, I mean, that's exactly the type of motivation that I would place if I was in your shoes.
Well, we can try that, but the thing about the bond, though, is that if we do require a bond, then the town itself will have the bond money, right? So we can send in a notice to the operator, right? Saying, this is not in compliance, you need to bring it into compliance within X number of days, and if you don't, we will bring it into compliance and use the bond money to do that, and then you have to replenish the bond. So it's providing more of a guarantee that something's gonna get done.
And those bonds are transferable if the leaseholder decides to sell the lease to somebody else.
Well, we would ask for a passbook savings bond, so we would ask for a monetary bond. We
But the
have,
requirement to maintain that, if leaseholder A, 10 years from now, sells to leaseholder B,
yeah, so there.
does that transfer with the sale?
There are two different kinds of bonds, right? There's a letter of credit bond, and that, you know, if it's transferred to a new owner, we would need to get a new letter of credit from the new owner's bank. But then there's the kind of bond that you would do when you're constructing a subdivision, which is actually physical, tangible money. And that would be, the bond would be held by the town. So there's two different ways to do it. When we've done landscaping bonds, we've asked not for a letter of credit. We've asked for an actual passbook bond, so that it's easier to collect on,
So
because.
it'll get you through one failure, not more than one.
Yeah, but then the condition would be that if the bond gets used, the project owner would have to replace it. And then we would need to do this, we would need to figure out how much that would be,
Mhm.
right? So we need to set an amount.
The town of Acushnet and the town of Rochester require stormwater bonds for their solar projects, so I'm happy to provide you with examples of decisions, or I'm sure you can find them as well. They're in the range of $25,000,
Mhm.
$10,000 to $25,000, depending on the complexity of the stormwater features.
In your design, how many, so you're going to expand the existing basin, but you told me that, if I heard you correctly, none of your water is going to be going there. So internally to your site, two?
There's one at the low spot,
Yeah.
there's one at the western.
And where do they, when they reach capacity, where do they discharge to?
Back onto the landlord's property, so the work continues on its way up.
To the property owners? Okay, so he's discharging onto himself. Okay, that's his problem then. What about the other one?
The one on the east, there's about an 80-foot gap between what would be the property line and then Mayflower's property and then the marsh.
Okay.
And so I would imagine it would discharge that way, but just think about how that gravity is.
And that's about an 80-foot path of travel? Okay.
And we got the test pits at all three locations.
Good.
The memos, the
Okay.
letter, they got 20-foot test pits in the location of three proposed pits.
When you, getting back to the existing basin, you say it discharges towards your property. And the answer might be obvious, but is there an opportunity to redirect that and so it's not towards her property?
I think there's a gravity issue, that just the low spot.
That's what,
Southwest.
okay. And that's just a pipe flowed in crushed stone kind of, or, Okay. How far is your property from this, 300 feet? Or-
I think it's less than that, and that was one of the issues that your engineer brought up. There was parts of the project that were awful close to the property line, and just to clarify, Zach, when you mentioned marsh, are you talking the reservoir on the, just a, I see the triangle up there. That's our main water source,
Yeah,
right
so
there.
there's one basin here, excuse me, at this corner.
That's the existing one, okay. Yeah.
This
So
is-
if it overflows-
The existing one is down here that flows due south into the reservoir. That would be expanded this way considerably. It'll still, if there is an issue, it'll still overtop to
Yeah.
the south. The two new proposed basins, one here discharges this way, one here
Yeah.
discharges this way.
So discharges, so two basins are discharging towards me.
I mean, in the event that it's overflowing, this would flow, because there's just the choke goes
Mhm.
down to this slope here.
But that's a reservoir that's maintained, its levels are maintained by manual flume boards. So it's spring fed, we're lucky. But, a significant amount of water coming into that is now management on our end, going out into the flume and pulling boards that would then, either we have a bypass canal, they flow. I think the town just did some work over under Colchester. Some of our water goes out that way,
Mhm.
some of the other water goes under Brook Street and towards Mayflower. So that's just
Yeah.
we have to manage water.
I would
Yeah.
I would only take exception to the word significant. I think Massachusetts stormwater rules don't let us put significant amounts of water on these properties anyways. So I would, I'm not a civil engineer, but we put together this stormwater report that meets or exceeds the next standards. And so we're talking about if things go wrong in this area, we're discussing it, the southern part of the site right now. I think it's incumbent on everyone to go wrong with this, so it's functioning properly, and do not see this kind of overflow issue here. Very, very nice.
It just could make managing that reservoir automatically challenging, and it's spring fed, there's always water
Mhm.
coming up over the board.
Yeah, so it will be designed and permitted and constructed in compliance with the local and state regulations. Getting back to what I said, it's a maintenance issue. So, to be honest with you, we'll look for you to let us, keep an eye on it, and if there's issues, let us know, and then we'll have a bond and we'll address it. That's kind of where it's at, right?
Yeah. What's the system designed for wet storm?
It's a 100-year storm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the volume of, explain the rainfall for 100 year storm.
100-year storm is probably 8.5 inches. So, I have to look at that. This varies around the state, but right about now, I think it's about 8.5 inches over 24 hours, which is a significant rainfall.
So what John's saying is if the system is properly maintained, it is designed to retain that amount of water before anything would flow off onto your property. So as long as we can make sure that it gets maintained, it would need to be more than, what did you say, 8.5?
Actually, it's this is 7.6 inches of rainfall. That's what it is in this area.
So,
Yep.
But we've had 7-inch rainfalls already this year.
Understood. Yep. And they,
I know, and a lot of this is hypotheticals, where it's a good faith that it will be engineered correctly and that it will be maintained, the way they say it's going to be.
Mhm.
I certainly don't want to go on my neighbor's property, making sure that their things are doing, I'm not
No, but you
going to
can-
see it until it impacts us. Because again, where the stormwater areas are is not on my property.
Mhm.
So, and I'm not about to go onto my neighbor's property inspecting their stormwater basins. That's not being a good neighbor.
yeah, so another thing that we could do is, for example, in two other projects where there were issues with the landscaping, we included requirements in the decision that they provide us with a landscaping inspection report every September as to which of the required landscaping
Mm.
plants are alive if any of them are dead, because we have a landscaping bond, we could have a similar inspection requirement,
Mhm.
right? And so every September or whenever we decide to
Yeah.
do it, provide us with, a report, somebody that's gone out to the site and looked at all of the basins, with a photograph or two to confirm that they're in compliance. We could include that kind of condition. Because we don't have a landscaping issue here, so we're not putting in that requirement for landscaping.
Just to say the fact, so I heard it right, effectively a stormwater, a periodic stormwater report to the planning board to confirm that things are operating.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just like a photograph of each basin. I, so-and-so, went out to the property on X date, took these photographs. Not, the landscaping ones that we get are not, it's not a heavy lift.
We're out there anyway, so.
Yes.
Yeah, and if there's an issue, then you let us know there's an issue and what the corrective measure is. And I wasn't suggesting you go on their property, I was suggesting just monitor your edges, and if there's an issue, let us
No,
know.
understood.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions, any comments?
No.
Okay, so I take it you would like a continuance until our next meeting on the 16th? Okay, it will be at 6:30. Okay, I move that we continue the public hearing for the Brook Street Phase 3 Solar LLC solar project to Tuesday, September 16th at 6:30 PM. Is there a second?
I'll take it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous. And I should have said at the beginning that Mr. Cohen has recused himself from this proceeding, but now he will take his place on the dais. So according to the town clerk, there was somebody who wanted to come to the meeting with a public question, but I don't see anybody else here. So I don't know what happened with that. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes? I saw I had a typo at the very end because I had, the next meeting was August instead of September, but I corrected that. Does anybody have any comments on those minutes?
I don't.
Okay. So, it was August 2nd?
23rd, you think?
No, that's not it. That was the
Oh,
site
okay.
visit. It was August. I have them up on the screen.
19th? We didn't have any meetings.
August 5th, thanks. All right, so I move that we approve the meeting minutes for August 5th as written with the correction of the date for the next meeting from August to September. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. The next piece of business is, I got an email from the town administrator saying that the planning board office, the building department is concerned about mold or something, which there's been mold in the planning board office since I was first elected to the planning board in the year 2000. But we're apparently not allowed to go into the planning board office or anywhere downstairs per, I'll tell you what she said here.
What do you mean? We were offered a second dehumidifier if we wanted to press that.
Well, that's fine. Let's see what it says. The Board of Health is in the process of assessing the townhouse basement. In the meantime, other than specific vendors authorized by the Board of Health for mold remediation or otherwise, no one is to be down there for any purpose. Although we can contact the Board of Health chairman to figure out an access arrangement to our office. So I pass that information along to everyone. If anyone would like to go into the office, then they'll need to coordinate. If not, I suppose we can just wait until whatever situation is addressed. Okay, does anybody have any other things?
I do not. The energy's just.
All right, I move that we close the meeting at 7:06. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Bye.
Thank you. See you later, John. You're gonna take.